Hello there, I'm Gary Stearman. Welcome to Prophecy Watchers. We have a very special guest today, and his name is Tyler Gilreath, and he's written, well, a lot of books, but we're going to focus on this one. Tyler, welcome to Prophecy Watchers.
Gary, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to meeting you, and I appreciate your work, and you're highlighting the supernatural aspect of Scripture, and I can't wait to dive in.
And by the way, Tyler is a writer who really digs into a subject, as you will find out. This one, the Liberty Code, is built around conspiracy theory, and everybody, oh no, not conspiracy theory. Everybody wants to stay away from that. But actually, there are a lot of conspiracies if you stop and look at every level of life, and through the last 100 years of history of the United States, you can't count the conspiracies, right?
And the first conspiracy, you shall not surely die.
How about that? Indeed. Satan has a way of blocking information.
He certainly
And
does.
what he's done with the type of information that's in your books and mine and people that we talk to all the time, Satan tries to make their topics disreputable. Oh, nobody wants to talk about that topic. And that is how information of this sort is treated routinely.
Oh, routinely, yeah. It's relegated. If you talk about this or have talked about it, you're relegated to crazy town, or you just eat conspiracies for breakfast,
Right.
kind of thing. But when you actually dig deep into this, which is what I tried to do in the Liberty Code, you see that there is a lot of evidence that historically has been there and is now starting to come to the surface, come to light. And when you began to put the pieces together, you can see this puzzle piece or this tapestry of cosmic delusion that is headed our way very rapidly.
Satanic propaganda, to put it short.
Satanic propaganda.
I'm looking at chapter 6, and the silenced president of the CIA conspiracy. This has to do with a very famous president.
So just to kind of take a quick history lesson back in time with President Kennedy, when he came on the scene, he was an aspiring young presidential figure that had a lot of new ideas. And very quickly on in his presidency, he learned that not everybody in government was your friend.
Yeah.
In fact, the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, had many secretive factions within it that would try to undermine him as the head of the executive branch. Starting with really the Bay of Pigs incident back in April of 1961, where essentially he and the CIA had a disagreement on how much air support would be given to this effort to overthrow that particular government. And so ultimately, President Kennedy did not provide the air support that Allen Dulles, the head of the CIA, wanted. And so from that moment moving forward, there was a great divide, Gary, between President Kennedy's agenda of transparency and cooperation with even the Soviet Union. He wanted to have a joint space program with them, a lunar program with them, and he wanted to denuclearize. He thought that it's not good for the world, for all these world powers to have these stockpiles of nuclear weapons, and so let's get rid of those. And so he also wanted transparency, because we were going to explore space after all, maybe with the Soviets, on UFOs of all things. And so during this time in history, much has already happened, and I'm sure we'll go back and revisit some of that. But even going back to February 1961, there was this famous NATO UFO incident where, essentially you had a series of 50 unknown targets that were moving from the Soviet Union towards Europe, and how suddenly this sounded the alarm for everybody, because we're living in a time that is volatile and this could be enemy attacks. And it was really a scary event that really woke President Kennedy up as far as the transparency that we needed to share with other countries as far as airspace and what we were or were not doing.
Now, you've set the scene, and I want to just insert a fact here.
Yeah.
From my perspective, if you're saying, what in the world is he talking about? And this is a Christian television program. Is this a subject that's fit for discussion? And all my life as a Christian, I have been reading the Bible, and the Bible has a sizable proportion of the text devoted to fallen angels under Satan and God's squads of angels, which are too numerous to mention. But in other words, as you read through the Bible, if you just start from one cover and read to the other, you're reading a story about dynamic power in the heavens. And the power comes in many different guises, but mostly the good guys and the bad guys, good angels, bad angels. And we say, oh, that's a subject that, yes, we know about that, but you really can't talk about it because it doesn't have much to do with our daily lives. Wrong. And that's what this book is all about. You are putting in context something
Correct.
that is a biblical narrative.
It is, and it's. I've written 2 other books, which we may have opportunity to talk about, which are strictly biblical. But I wanted to bring the landscape of the biblical world, angels and demons, and figure out what are they doing now? How are they presenting themselves now? What is the deception?
Or are they doing anything?
Or are they doing anything now? And so this was truly an investigation into this, and I was shocked at the level of alleged presidential involvement with the topic of unknowns or unidentified flying objects. They used to be called, now they are called basically unidentified anomalous objects. And so the book is really an investigation into that phenomenon, looking at the intents, the malice, the activity, and I take the reader, Gary, through all the different presidents from George Washington to present-day Donald Trump that have had alleged involvement in this topic. And President Kennedy was a very important figure in this story. And so going back to that incident, starting in 1961, moving forward, the distrust now is there with President Kennedy and members, the 3 letter agencies, specifically the CIA, about UFOs and transparency. And so marching forward, June 4th, 1961, President Kennedy would meet with Nikita Khrushchev, who was the Soviet premier at the time. And what he told Kennedy was pretty shocking. He told Kennedy that inside his own government, inside the CIA, there was an effort to spoof fake UFO signals. Well, Kennedy's running America. How does he not know this? And so he begins to talk about this operation called Operation Palladium, which again, we were faking phantom signals so that we could fly our own craft over there unknown, and they would get used to seeing these anomalous features. And so that was very, very unsettling to a young President Kennedy. And so when he got back to the States, Gary, he said, I demand answers. So he wrote a letter to the then head of the CIA, Allen Dulles, on June 28, 1961. He wanted to know everything about psychological warfare campaigns and MJ-12, which we'll talk about, activities.
Wow. Now, you're talking about a story that a lot of people say, well, that's really interesting. What does that have to do with Christianity and
Right.
the Bible? And we're going to pause here, a little dramatic pause, to tell you about our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, and how you can subscribe to it. When we come back, we are going to talk with Tyler about something that has such an effect upon your thinking as a Christian that you wouldn't believe it. We'll be right back.
At Prophecy Watchers, we believe that God has called us to be a voice in these last days, to warn you of things to come, to educate you on the study of Bible prophecy, and to boldly proclaim the soon return of Jesus. For your gift of just $50 or more, here's what we'd love to send you: 12 monthly issues of our 4-color magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, in your choice of print or digital. Plus 5 bonus DVDs packed with eye-opening teachings from prophecy experts, including The Mystery of the Rapture, The Great Apostasy and the Revealing of the Antichrist, Holy Fire in Jerusalem, new shocking discoveries surrounding the Shroud of Turin, The Stones Cry Out, the archaeological evidence for Jesus, The Mystery of the 10 Kings. Could these be the wealthy and influential oligarchs who control our world today? As an added bonus, we want to send you a one-of-a-kind prophetic treasure, a book that examines every prophecy in the entire Bible. Exploring Bible prophecy from Genesis to Revelation is the work of 2 prophecy legends, Tim LaHaye and Ed Hindson. It's a book you'll find on the shelf of every prophecy expert. This 560-page masterpiece is our bonus gift to you. This $120 value can be yours for your gift of $50 with shipping included in the USA. Call us at the number on your screen or visit us online at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees do apply and all prices listed are in US dollars. The signs are everywhere. The prophetic puzzle is almost complete, and yet so many are still asleep. That's why the Prophecy Watchers exists, to shine a light in the darkness and help believers understand the lateness of the hour. We believe Jesus is coming soon, and your support helps us take this urgent message to the ends of the earth.
And we're back with Tyler Gilreath, and he has a book. By the way, his writing style is very, very enthralling. You know, he pulls you right into all the details. And let's get to the centerpiece of the Liberty Code, because when we last talked to you, you were talking about an incident in the life of JFK.
Right. He has now realized that he cannot trust the CIA, and so he began demanding answers on UFO transparency. He wanted to know what we knew about UFOs, and this very mysterious group called Majestic 12, which was really the keepers of the secrets. And we know that he did, in fact, meet with Alan Dulles twice on that date that I mentioned earlier, June 28th, 1961, when Alan Dulles' calendar was declassified. We saw this letter that has been floating out there for years was validated. So now, 2 years later, November 12th, 1963, Alan Dulles has been fired. He is gone. John McCone is the new director. And he wrote a letter to John McCone saying that he wants a classification review of all UFO files affecting national security. Now, that was just days before he was assassinated. We discovered later on a burned memo that was in the secret vault of then counterintelligence CIA operative James Jesus Angleton. The letter said that Lancer, the Secret Service name for Kennedy, cannot be allowed to continue pressing us into UFO matters. And so why that matters, Gary, is that the CIA was upset with JFK that he wanted to have a joint program with the Soviets, that he wanted to denuclearize, that he wanted to have UFO disclosure. And so now there is evidence coming out of the woodwork as we speak that one of the primary reasons that JFK was assassinated is he wanted to know the truth about UFOs.
And he pushed too hard.
And he pushed too hard. He got too close to the secrets.
Now, this is a good place to say, aren't you interested in reading this book? But what I want to do from here on in is ask a question. What does everything you just said have to do with Christianity and with our belief in the Lord Jesus Christ and our Christian walk? How is this going to help us to have Christian perspective about what in the world is going on these days?
Well, I think it always helps to have context and historical context. You know, the Bible was written over 2,000 years ago, and what this book does is it pulls back the curtain on what has been happening lately with these entities. And so when you understand the
And
panoply
when
of
you
deception,
talk about entities, what are you talking about?
we're talking about principalities and powers that Paul describes, not flesh and blood entities as far as humans. These are entities that God has created, or they have defected from the heavenly kingdom of God. And they are really deceptive agents. Now we know there's good and bad, like you said. God's angels, the faithful heavenly host, as the Bible describes them, patrol the earth. We understand that. But a lot of the things that I cover in this book, Gary, is these devious demons, these entities that are engaging with national geopolitical powers, which they have always done, going back to even the Tower of Babel, the disbursement of the nations. And so it's amazing when you begin to realize that it is not an idea that's just written on a page, but that these beings are engaging with the power structures of the world and maybe, just maybe, presidents of the United States.
And they are presenting themselves not as demonic powers, but as travelers from other dimensions, from perhaps other galaxies. You hear this all the time. There are a lot of programs on television that try to present that side of the story. Like, yes, there are a lot of things flying around in the sky that you do not see, but our government is investigating them, and we're finding out that they're from millions, even billions of light years away, and they're here to help mankind. And you hear all this fiction.
Yeah, they're trying to displace the creative story of the Bible. In other words, we weren't created by God or Yahweh. We were seeded, the earth was seeded by these highly intelligent, superior extraterrestrial beings.
Right.
And so that is one of the narratives that is being pushed. There is also another narrative that I was really not aware of until recently, Gary, and it's the concept of these are future humans from millions of years in the future.
And they've evolved.
Exactly.
Oh.
They've evolved. And so what does that do if that narrative gets traction? Well, we believe we are in the last days. And so if our government is telling us that, no, these are likely future humans, well, that can kind of debunk the
they've come
eschatology.
They've come back in time, in other words.
They've come back in time. And so what does that mean? That a lot of the things that will transpire in the end times won't happen or never happened if the earth is still here in 1 million years.
Right.
So there's a lot of deception that is laced with this UFO phenomenon.
And we've gotten to the point that I wanted to get to with Tyler, and that is he has put his finger on satanic deception in the books that he writes. He's written a couple of others besides this one that we're talking about, the Liberty Code, but he has really blown the whistle on, or shined a bright light on, whatever idiom you want to use. He's exposed the idea that is becoming very popular these days concerning the development of humankind. And it's, by the way, it has nothing to do with God.
It really has. It used to be that people with tinfoil hats talk about this topic, and now it is being talked about in congressional hearings. We've had multiple congressional hearings the past several years. And so now it is our representatives who are blowing the whistle, who are talking about this. It is President Trump going on podcasts, being asked and saying, this is the most asked question he got on the campaign trail. And so this topic is no longer relegated to conspiracy theories. It is now coming out with whistleblower after whistleblower. And if Christians are not ready, then they will be caught really flat-footed. They're not going to be ready for the questions and the skepticism that may be coming their way.
Well, we are besieged these days with books and television programs, sometimes very long, a couple of hour presentations on television concerning what those crazy lights are doing in the sky. And the conclusion is usually reached, well, these are our benefactors from other times and space locations, and their technology is so far beyond ours that we can't understand it, but they're here to help us, and we'll just operate on that basis. In other words, it's not warfare. The Bible calls it spiritual warfare, by the way, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness in heavenly places. That's, by the way, the true definition of the phenomenon that we're talking about, right?
It really is. Satan is called the prince of the power of the air for a
There you
reason.
go.
And so this is very pertinent. While I go into the historical context of this and I look at what George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, presidents such as JFK, Nixon, and many others knew about this phenomenon, the ultimate goal of the book, Gary, is to see that there is a long-standing activity in the heavens that involve even the President of the United States. Because ultimately, the President of the United States is the loudest microphone in the world.
Yes.
He or she, whoever it may be, the disclosure president, will have a tremendous amount of influence on how the world parses and understands what's actually happening.
Very interesting topic, and we've managed to squeeze what is a huge topic into just a few minutes. The book is called The Liberty Code, and Tyler Gilreath is a very, very exceptional writer. I'd like to pause right now and you find out how you can get his book.
Every now and then, a new author comes on the prophetic scene with unique and fascinating research. Our guest today, Tyler Gilreath, has written a one-of-a-kind book that is far from your average UFO book. While he may reference military pilots, whistleblowers, and the famous Roswell crash, there's far more to his story. He takes us back in time to the days of the Founding Fathers, men of great intellect and influence. Shockingly, all of them had deep conversations about angels, demons, and life on other planets. According to historical sources, during the Valley Forge winter of 1777, George Washington ventured into a snow-covered forest to pray for America's survival. Suddenly, a radiant figure stood before him, and according to tradition, Washington was shown scenes of future battles, receiving assurances that America would overcome the British and become a great nation. The author then takes us on a presidential tour, sharing information about each administration's pursuit of top-secret UFO intelligence. Time and time again, well-intentioned presidents seeking the inside scoop on alien life are left frustrated by their inability to pierce the veil of secrecy. From the Roosevelts to President Truman to Lyndon Johnson, JFK, Bill Clinton, and President Trump, Gilreath digs out fascinating tidbits from their UFO experiences in the White House. Did our presidents know the real truth? Has our government already made contact with aliens, as many suggest? From Project Blue Book to President Trump's Space Force and proposed missile shield, we must wonder, was there once life on the moon or Mars? Did fallen angels once inhabit our solar system? Are they returning in a UFO? Tyler's book, The Liberty Code, can be yours for your gift of $30 or more. It comes with a special bonus, a copy of Gary Stearman's special DVD, Project Jehovah, a look at our government's shocking UFO cover-ups over the years. Call the number on your screen 24/7 or visit us online at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees do apply, and all prices listed are in US dollars. We've taken two of Tyler's other books, Gate of the Gods and The Gospel Over Gods, and created the Tyler Gilreath Supernatural Package. Discover many of the subjects you will likely never hear about in church, from the mystery of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the Nephilim of Genesis 6, the secrets behind the Tower of Babel, and the ancient gods of the Babylonian mystery religion. Get all three books for your gift of $75 or more, along with the Project Jehovah bonus DVD and free shipping anywhere in the USA. Prophecy Watchers is grateful for friends like you who believe in our mission. We live in a time of great deception. Satan is real. Demons are real, and there's a dark side to our world that is drawing many people away from a relationship with Jesus. Don't be deceived. Jesus is coming soon.
Well, we're back with Tyler. Tyler Gilreath is his name. Remember the name, and remember his books. You've written a couple of others, and you're probably writing another. If I know you from a few minutes conversation, you're probably working on another one right now.
Well, I always have some ideas, in the background, but
Yeah.
I enjoy writing, and I enjoy the process of digging. And I'm an evidence kind of guy. I want to see the evidence, the facts, and I try to put those in all of my books, but also have a historical and storyline narrative to what actually has transpired.
The Liberty Code. Now, we've got just a little over 2 minutes left. Where does the time go? And let's sort of put a succinct conclusion now on our discussion about this book. The message is in the book that you'd like people to take home with them.
Yeah, I want them to come away with, again, an appreciation for where we are spiritually in the heavens and on earth. Why is the world the way it is? Why are the messages being articulated from high offices of government now? Where has the storyline been the past 70 or 80 years? And ultimately, I want them to be ready for what is coming. And I believe the best way to be ready is to truly understand how devious and how dark and deep this storyline has been in just U.S. history. And so, if readers check out the book, and I hope they will go on a journey from, again, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, to present day and what the Bible has to say about this topic.
And that's well done. And I have to read the subtitle again. How the Founders' Secret Writings Expose the UFO Agenda and the Coming Alien Crisis. And if you listen carefully to those words, we live in a very dramatic time. We have come now, I think, to that point in biblical history where several of the things we've been prophetically analyzing now for the last few decades have exploded. We're seeing so much happening, so many facts opening up before our very eyes, right?
We really have, and it's called the Liberty Code because true freedom comes from trusting God. And that's what I hope people take away is the freedom and liberty that we have in Christ, to trust, to walk through difficult times such as this and be ready.
Tyler Gilreath, you got to read the book. I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, you keep watching. We are.
Prophecy Watchers is a viewer-supported ministry made possible through the faithful support of friends like you. If you've been blessed by our ministry and feel led to stand with us, we would truly be grateful for your financial support. You can give easily by visiting prophecywatchers.com.